What is the true measure of a life? Is it the grand arc of human endeavor, or the fragile beat of a single heart, struggling against the indifferent vastness of a world that so often forgets mercy? The city lay drowned, a ghostly silhouette beneath a sky the color of bruised plums. An eerie silence, broken only by the relentless, mournful rush of the floodwaters, had settled where laughter once echoed. Through this desolate urban sea, a single, bright yellow kayak cut a solitary path. Mateo Reyes, his lean, muscular frame etched with the exhaustion of days spent battling despair, guided his vessel with quiet, unwavering determination. His tanned, rugged skin was drawn tight, his intense dark eyes scanning the watery graves of homes, the faded blue cap pulled low over his brow, almost a shield against the pervasive sorrow. He had sent his own family to safety, a gnawing helplessness in his gut, but his heart refused to abandon hope for any living soul left behind. The air, thick with chilling dampness and the scent of decay, felt like a suffocating blanket. Then, a subtle ripple near a half-submerged house, barely a tremor in the suffocating current, caught his eye. Dread warred with a desperate hope as he paddled closer. The sight that unfolded shattered the fragile piece of his routine, just the tips of two floppy ears, then the mud-caked head of a large pit bull mix, her matted brindle fur plastered wet. Her amber eyes, now bloodshot and wide with unspeakable terror, met his, a flicker of desperate pleading igniting in their depths. Around her neck, thick with algae and mud, was a heavy, rusty metal chain, cinched tight, digging into her flesh. She was emaciated, trembling, her breathing a shallow, guttural gasp. Mateo's heart seized, a wave of nausea, then white-hot anger at the callous owner, followed by a laser-like focus on the dwindling life before him. "You poor soul," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. He was within feet, his kayak unstable, hand outstretched. But a sudden surge of current pushed him back. The dog, Esperanza, let out a weak whimper, water lapping at her chin. Her amber eyes glazed over, head dipping, almost imperceptibly, beneath the muddy surface. "No!" Mateo screamed, his voice cracking. "Esperanza! Hold on. I'm here." He strained against the current, seeing the life draining from her eyes, physically spent, his hand unable to reach. A primal scream tore from Mateo Reyes's throat, slicing through the heavy, waterlogged air. The image of Esperanza's head slipping beneath the surface ignited a desperate, furious adrenaline. With a guttural grunt, he dug his paddle deep, pushing against a submerged fence post, repositioning his unstable yellow kayak. Her head re-emerged, a shallow gasp escaping her lips, and in her bloodshot amber eyes, he saw it, a faint, almost imperceptible tail wag. It was a fragile spark, a defiant flicker of hope in the face of oblivion, and it fueled Mateo's exhausted body. He would not fail. But the hostile environment seemed to conspire against him. Hidden barbed wire snagged his paddle, splintered wood scraped dangerously against his kayak's hull, and a powerful eddy relentlessly pulled him off course. Each stroke was a battle, each inch gained, a victory hard won against the unseen enemy swirling beneath the muddy blanket of the floodwaters. A flicker of past trauma, a rescue he couldn't complete, gnawed at the edges of his resolve. The weight of responsibility for Esperanza's life was immense, pressing down on him, heavy as the deluge. This would not be another failure. Drawing closer, Mateo discerned the horrifying truth. The rusty, algae-thick chain wasn't merely clipped, it was deeply anchored to something heavy, submerged beneath the house's foundation. Unclipping it was impossible, he needed to cut it. A curse, low and guttural, escaped his lips, directed at the unseen, heartless owner. His heavy-duty bolt cutters were lashed to the front of his kayak, and retrieving them in the violently rocking vessel was a dangerous dance that almost capsized him twice, his thick, water-resistant gloves fumbling with the clips. As he neared the decaying house, the insidious ascent of the floodwaters was visibly rising, now lapping at Esperanza's chin. The house itself groaned, its foundation compromised, a section of its roof having recently collapsed. He knew the structure was a death trap. When he finally got within arm's reach, Esperanza, her terror of humans still primal despite her desperate need, instinctively pulled back, baring her teeth in a guttural growl. Mateo stopped, his intense dark eyes softening, and spoke to her in low, soothing tones, slowly extending his gloved hand. Patiently, relentlessly, he broke through her fear. Esperanza sniffed his hand cautiously, her growl subsiding to a low rumble. Her profound terror slowly transformed into a fragile, desperate acceptance, a silent agreement forged in the face of death. But the water continued its relentless rise, a child's floating teddy bear now rested higher on a porch railing, a chilling marker. The house let out another, deeper groan, a sound of imminent collapse. Mateo knew he had no choice. He had to get out of the kayak. Securing his bright yellow kayak to a sturdy, exposed railing of the submerged porch, Mateo, clutching the heavy bolt cutters, carefully stepped into the waist-deep, turbulent water. The icy cold seeped through his dark wetsuit, pulling violently at his legs. Esperanza, now just a few feet away, watched him, her amber eyes fixed on his every move, a new, fragile understanding mixed with deep-seated terror. Mateo was submerged up to his chest, the current tearing at him, the dog's head bobbing dangerously low, barely above the waterline. He took a deep, shuddering breath, the absolute weight of Esperanza's life now entirely in his trembling hands, the roar of the floodwaters echoing in his ears. Mateo, submerged to his chest, battled the relentless current, each step a struggle against the unseen pull of the water, straining to reach the deeply anchored, rusty chain. His muscles burned with exertion, his lean frame shaking from cold and effort. Esperanza, despite her deep-seated fear, nudged his outstretched gloved hand with her wet snout, a silent plea, a profound moment of shared, desperate understanding that ignited a fresh fire in Mateo's weary soul. But the chain was not only rusted and thick, it was tangled around a submerged piece of sharp metal, making it incredibly difficult to get the heavy bolt cutters into position. He slipped on a slick, unseen piece of submerged furniture, nearly losing his grip on the tools, coughing violently as he swallowed a mouthful of the bitter floodwater, his lungs burning. The tarnished silver cross around his neck swung wildly, a desperate pendulum in the churning water. Then, with a terrifying crack, a large, heavy piece of debris, a waterlogged shed door, slammed into the side of the groaning house, shaking the entire structure violently. The water rose another discernible inch, now truly lapping at Esperanza's chin. The house let out another, deeper groan, a sound of imminent collapse. Through a broken window, Mateo spotted a child's brightly colored toy floating near a family photo album. The sheer callousness of the owner's abandonment hit him anew, reigniting his fading resolve with white-hot anger. He was utterly spent, despair gnawing at him. He pictured his own family, safe, then saw Esperanza's desperate, bloodshot face. He questioned if he had the strength, if he would fail. "I won't let you drown, I promise," he whispered to Esperanza, even as doubt threatened to overwhelm him. And then, the darkest moment, Esperanza's strength visibly gave out. Her head dipped again, her amber eyes losing their focus, her breathing shallow to the point of silence, a few mournful bubbles rising to the muddy surface. She had given up. This unbearable sight, the absolute surrender of a life he had vowed to save, jolted Mateo with a new surge of desperate, primal energy. With a deep, shuddering breath, his lungs screaming for air, Mateo made a desperate, dangerous move. He went completely underwater, working blind in the murky depths, his numb, gloved fingers searching for a weak link on the chain. The pressure was immense, the cold suffocating. The heavy bolt cutters made a terrifying, grinding, screeching sound underwater, resonating through the water and into his bones. It took multiple, agonizing attempts, his hands shaking violently, the water pressure and his own exhaustion fighting against him. Each squeeze of the cold, unyielding metal was a monumental effort, his lean, muscular body pushed to its breaking point. Then, with a final, explosive crack, the heavy, rusty chain broke. Mateo surfaced, gasping for air, water streaming from his face, eyes wide with a dizzying relief. Esperanza, disoriented, felt the sudden, unbelievable release. She looked at him, bewildered but gloriously, unbelievably free. The broken pieces of the chain sank silently, a stark symbol of her abandoned past. The challenge of getting Esperanza into the kayak was immense. She was heavy, weak, and still disoriented. Mateo, utterly spent, gently coaxed her, lifting her front paws, then guiding her hindquarters into the unstable vessel, which rocked violently, threatening to overturn them both. Finally, Mateo, mud and water coating him, his chest heaving with exhaustion and adrenaline, lay sprawled across the kayak. Esperanza, now wrapped loosely in a thermal blanket Mateo had retrieved, curled at his feet, shivering but undeniably safe, her amber eyes occasionally flickering up at him with profound, almost human, gratitude. The broken chain, a stark symbol of her near death, lay at the bottom of the kayak. The current began to sweep them slowly away from the treacherous, groaning house, but a new, chilling danger emerged, the distant, unmistakable sound of a massive structural collapse. Mateo looked back at the now disintegrating house, a pang of terror and profound relief warring within him. He clutched the paddle, his body screaming for rest, knowing the hardest part, getting them both to absolute safety, was still ahead, but Esperanza was alive, her breath a small, precious warmth against his leg. Slowly, methodically, Mateo Reyes paddled the yellow kayak through the gradually receding floodwaters, heading towards the designated emergency rescue point. The sun, having broken through the clouds, cast an almost divine, golden light across the devastation, a gentle promise of healing. The journey, though still fraught with debris, was less frantic. Mateo spoke to Esperanza in low, soothing tones, reassuring her, whispering the name that now felt truly hers. They arrived at the bustling temporary animal rescue center. Esperanza, still fragile, was immediately assessed, severely hypothermic, dehydrated, and marked with painful abrasions from the chain. Mateo, despite his own extreme exhaustion and exposure, remained steadfastly by her side, a constant, comforting presence amidst the controlled chaos. Day by day, Esperanza received intravenous fluids, gentle warming blankets, and meticulous veterinary care. She was still wary, flinching at sudden movements, but slowly, tentatively, she began to accept Mateo's gentle touch. One day, a hesitant, soft lick to his unloved hand solidified a bond forged in the crucible of shared terror and miraculous escape. Mateo reflected deeply on the callousness of Esperanza's former owner, the bitter taste of that abandonment warring with the awe of life's incredible resilience and the immense, quiet power of compassion. He began to see Esperanza not just as a rescued dog, but as a living symbol of all that was lost and now, defiantly, beautifully, reclaimed. A profound connection solidified. Esperanza began to follow Mateo everywhere, pressing her head into his hand, a silent, powerful testament to their shared trauma and the burgeoning trust between them. The thought of leaving her, of severing this newly forged link after all they had endured, became unbearable. With a surge of emotion, Mateo realized, with absolute certainty, that she was meant to be his family. He approached the adoption desk, his intense dark eyes resolute. The paperwork was filled, a new identification created, and, most importantly, Esperanza received a new, comfortable, brightly colored collar, free from any chain. Life after the flood slowly began to normalize. The city rebuilt, its scars visible but healing, just as Esperanza's own abrasions faded into memory. Mateo and Esperanza began a new life together, long, peaceful walks in a reclaimed park, playful games of fetch where her powerful body moved with unburdened joy, and quiet evenings together, a profound companionship settling into their shared spaces. As Esperanza, now healthy, vibrant, and utterly secure, rested her head on Mateo's lap during a quiet evening, her soft breaths a steady rhythm, he realized that while the flood had ravaged so much, it had also washed away the complacency of indifference, leaving in its wake a profound truth: the deepest rescue is not just of a life, but of the very soul that chooses to save it, forging an unbreakable chain of love that could never be forgotten, nor forsaken.